Okay, we are live. Welcome, everybody, to our first installment of Meet the Media Pros at the Queen's Podcast Lab. In this series, we are going to meet Queen's College alumni who have developed careers in media, and we're bringing them back to ask them about the business and asking them about what they wish they did, and just trying to tap in. For all of you who don't have a rich uncle working at NBC, this is our way to access them. As usual, I'm joined by my colleague, co-director of the Queen's Podcast Lab, Jason Tuga. Jason, it's great to see you again.
Hi, Joe. Always great. I'm excited to hear from these alumni, too.
Yeah, we got two very interesting alumni, a podcaster and a graphic designer. Let me begin with Vanessa Corwin. Vanessa, welcome to the first installment of the Queen's Podcast Lab Meet the Pros.
Thanks. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're going to have you introduce yourself in a moment, but first I just wanted to welcome Thamare Rejouis. She is our graphic designer. Welcome, Thamare.
Hi, how are you?
Now, I'd like to get our guests to start off by introducing themselves and their current and past creative enterprises. Let's start with Vanessa. Vanessa, could you introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. Hi, I'm Vanessa Corwin. And throughout most of my career, I've been a freelance video producer, both in broadcast and corporate world. I've also worked at Columbia University as a communications manager. And right now, I am the executive producer of a podcast. It's called Now Let's Talk the Podcast, and it started basically as a pandemic project where we talk to people about the challenges that they experience in their lives because of the pandemic and how they are coping with them or having trouble coping with them. And now that the world is opening up a bit more, we are expanding our subject matter, our themes a little bit more too. And I'm also working on some creative theater projects as well.
Yeah, you do live and recorded media, and your media are video and audio.
Yes.
Basically. Yes. And can you give us the website of the podcast, just in case?
Of course. It's called Now Let's Talk the Podcast.com. And there you can find all of our episodes, actually, and you can listen to them. We're on all the major podcast outlets, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, basically wherever you get your podcasts. So please listen.
And very, very importantly, yes, you're also a Queen's College alumna.
Indeed, absolutely.
What's your department? What was your home department?
Well, I was a foreign language major, and I was that by virtue of the fact that I participated in the study abroad program. I spent a year in Spain and a summer in France, and I just loved it. It was a life-changing experience. And so when I came back and I was, getting ready to graduate and all that stuff, they, at that time, like all of these credits, because I had taken all sorts of courses in Spain and France, like history and art and literature. We were in Granada in Spain, and we had the good fortune at the time to have the curator of the Alhambra give us a section of the course, and he took us inside the Alhambra to places that were under restoration, and probably now that I think back on it, like very dangerous to walk around. We didn't wear hard hats or anything. We're all tripping through. Anyway, it was a great experience, life-changing experience, and I came back and they put all these credits down as Spanish. So I was a Spanish major. So I graduated with this degree, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I had a succession of kind of entry-level jobs in various fields that, to be quite honest, I kind of hated them. And I thought, well, what to do? So I fell into TV and film quite by accident because somebody that I knew was working at Sesame Street.
Nice.
And they called me up and they said, you know, Vanessa, they've got this project going on and you would be perfect for it. It was a series of like PSAs about health and stuff like that that are going to be broadcast in Latin America. And, you know, we need some, they were looking for a production assistant who was bilingual.
Oh, that's
And
the link.
yes, and I said, oh, you know, there's tons of kids who came out of NYU and
Yeah.
Columbia. I don't stand a chance.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
never, so I didn't really follow up with that. And then another week or so later, this person called me up again and she goes, well, Vanessa, you know, they're not interviewing people in droves here. You know, if I were you, I would get my butt over there. So, you know, long story short, I did, I got the interview and I got the job, and I knew immediately after I started working in it, I knew that I loved it. And this is what, this was it for me. So that's how
That's amazing.
I got into it.
That's amazing. First of all, such a Queen's College response to be like, oh, I won't go for it. The kids at Columbia will get it. They got to break out of the mindset of this.
Absolutely.
I love this. Now, first, before we go on, I want to introduce Thamare Rejouis, who is a graphic designer and entrepreneur. Thamare, welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about your backstory and your work in media?
Yes. Okay. So let's just say I wasn't always thinking about going into media. At first, you know, I am a Haitian descent. And so the automatic 3 type jobs you have to choose from is doctor, lawyer, and engineer. And so I started the doctor route, and I first went to Lehman College thinking I wanted to be a doctor. But I think it took 1 class for all that to change. And then I pursued my BFA at Queens College. And ever since, I haven't looked back. I could tell you, the more you get into media, the more you love it. You know, the more you realize what's in there and what you can make out of it. Because at first I started with painting. My first major is studio art. I was focused in painting. So I do a lot of still paints, life, you know, still life and stuff. And I knew there was something more I wanted to do as I got into like traditional animation. It was fun at first, but there's a lot of drawings. And so I knew that wasn't it. And it's not until I got into graphic design and I knew this amazing program at Queens College. And so when I got there, and I've met with a lot of beautiful, talented people, I tell you. And one class I took, it was called Instagram, but it's, I'm not sure the proper name, but it is Instagram. It's taught by Catherine Weinstein, Professor Catherine Weinstein, and she's amazing. And because of her, when I came out of Queens College, I mean, I was working as a graphic designer. I've worked for a small company and big companies as well. And more recently, I've opened up my own business. And in the business, I was still doing like freelance, right? And so I was doing logos, like, you know, websites and stuff, but I have never gotten into Instagram. And so with the class, it opened up my mind to a new world that I didn't know existed. And we took 1 trip, and that 1 trip it was just mind-boggling for me. And we went, it's called Epic. The company is called Epic, and they handle big company social media, like their Instagram. And I don't think people understand that it's a huge business out there with Instagram. People need your help, because if you have a business, you don't know the visual side of the business. And so they would want your visual aspect. They want to see where you can take the business, how far you can go with it. And this is what my company is all about, is to help them grow organically. And so what I do is I create a whole lot of videos, take pictures of their products, because it's not only Instagram they want to grow, they also want to grow in their own websites. Like their pictures is needed for their website. Like, you know, it doesn't even have to be pictures. Not a lot of people take pictures, but also create some sort of graphics for them. I work for a nonprofit. Well, we have them as an account. I work for a nonprofit. What they do is they provide medical education to the Haitian community. And so what they would do is they would have the English side and as well the Creole side. And because I speak Creole and I also speak English, and I do have some background in the medical field, and I tell you, it just ties in perfectly. It ties in perfectly. And so all the visual aspect I handle their social media. The language, they have someone else that handles all of that when it comes to different topics. But when it comes to the visual aspect, all the graphics, they need someone. And it's not just medical side, as well as different businesses. They always need someone to handle social media because it's a place where they can reach more people, you know? And if you feel as though you're just cornered to just the aspect, your 4th, 5th Avenue, social media allows you to get to the other side of the world, you know?
Yeah. You know, both of you, you know, your backstories make me think about how a lot of parents say, you know, social media, art, languages, these are wastes of time. Why aren't you going and getting a job where you can actually earn some money? And people don't understand that the media industry is a very large industry, and the skills that you learn studying these degrees can be used in gainful employment. Can you tell us what's your view on the value of studying the arts, studying creative stuff? Vanessa.
Yes, I have a lot to say. I have a lot to say about that. And I'm going to tell you a little story. I had a boss at one time, one of the many bosses I have had, because I've had tons of jobs. He said that, now he at the time had kids that were just getting into college, and the older one of the sons wanted to follow in the dad's footsteps and go into like film and television. And he was like, I want to major. He went to NYU and he said, I'm going to major in film and television. But dad said to him, major in the arts, learn literature, learn history, learn about the world.
Yeah.
And because that's, you know, and become an expert in something you love, something that appeals to you, because that's going to help you a lot. The technical stuff, you know, learning, you know, cameras, editing, etc., that changes all the time. And by the time you get out of college, the technology that you will have learned is going to be obsolete. So your best advice, so I would, and I believe that because I majored in that. I majored in, you know, languages, literature, you know, the arts, always had an interest in that. And, you know, I had, you know, great career and you know, that was my story. And so I say, absolutely get a well-rounded education and learn about something, become an expert in something, because that will help you.
Thamare, what about you? What do you say on this? The value of arts and all of those not job study programs.
You know, people always need help in the visual aspect. Because the whole point of learning the arts is mainly because you get a brighter sense, and then you can focus on a particular avenue. You know, I mean, I started with painting, I did animation, I did stop motion. I dabbled in all of these just to stop at graphic design. But it became something miraculous because I'm able to use all of these skills that I've learned over time, and I'm able to put them into one. Recently, someone contacted me for a music video, right? And so I know I can do videos, but it's never like music videos or films. But it came out beautifully, you know, surprisingly, it came out beautifully. I'm able to use the visual aspect of things and then apply it, you know, and I was able to get help here and then. And it's important and it's highly needed. And the reason why certain parents may not see it is because they're not raised into it. So my parents, they're blind of it. So when they go see a doctor, they see that profession. When they hear about lawyers, they hear that profession, or they see about an engineer because houses are built. But as far as social media, they're not really grown there. That's not their generation, or they don't even know what it's like to work in the like any graphic settings and anything that has to do with visuals. They don't know what it's like, and they don't know what the career looks like. And so if you are at home and you know about it, get to know people who are in the field, because guess what? It's your leg in. And once you start understanding how the company works or how the industry works, you can create something of your own, as I'm doing myself. Because it's not, I understand big corporation, they need help, they will pay the big money, but the person next to you, like the businesses that's like literally right by your house, they need help too. And you just don't know that because you didn't put yourself out there. So if you don't put yourself out there, no one's gonna know. And trust me, if they know, they will reach out. They will reach out.
It's also, you know, when students come asking what they should do for a living, I often say, find your gifts. Like if your gift is visual design, there will be jobs as long as you're good. As long as you're good at it and you follow your gifts, you'll find something. And then work is also extremely rewarding when you're able to flex the muscles that are strongest for you. Laura Abrams has a very good comment too. She writes, QC student body diversity is an asset. Your experiences will help you stand out. Be confident and share your story. That reminds me of a podcast interview that on the QC pod that we had last year, where we talked to a faculty who specialized in advising students to apply to elite graduate schools. And she said, one of the biggest problems with Queens College students is they think that they have to pretend that they're the same as the kids from Columbia and NYU, as opposed to leaning on what makes us unique or what makes us special. And I can say Laura's comment very much resonates with someone like me. Like I grew up in a place that was like 99% white. I was the only Jew in town and I was friends with the only Asian and Black kid at my school, you know? And so the ability to be exposed to other cultures or work across cultures is a real asset. And it sounds like both of you got your start because you were able to do that culture jumping, which is something that we're great at. We're naturals at here at Queens. What's your view on that? Leaning into the diversity as opposed to pretending like you're from Columbia. Does that resonate with your personal experience or views?
I say own it. I mean, I say own it. And, you know, I am of Hispanic extraction, Puerto Rican. And so, you know, I kind of had a little bit of that, oh, gee, I'm not as good as the NYU people or whatever. But, you know, I learned to just own it. It's what makes you different. It's what makes you stand out. And that's what you need to do in the real world. You know, why should somebody hire you? You know, because you have abilities and you have certain experience. Maybe you had an internship and you did really well in it, that kind of thing. So yeah, I say own it.
I agree. And one thing I don't know, I mean, I don't know the culture, what it's like to be in NYU, but I do know the culture in Queens College, is that it's a tight-knit and it's a close family. You have amazing professors. They prepare you for the future, okay? That's Professor Natalia. She's hard, and she's hard for a reason, okay? And she prepares you for tomorrow. And I remember when we had projects on top of projects on top of project, it didn't mean anything to me when I got to the real world, because I had projects on top of projects, but it was nothing like the Queens College, nothing. And in Queens College, you're involved with multiple, you get in touch. The classes are small, and they're small for a reason, because you get in touch and build these connections with your colleagues. I still personally work with them today. When I have bigger project, I utilize some of them. You know, when I have multiple projects, I utilize some of them. I'm in contact with a lot of alumni that do what they do, and they will put you in contact with their own clients. And there's this tight net. I think Queens College do an amazing job that they try to push the career on the student. And so I wouldn't worry about people coming from Columbia, because guess what? When they're talking to you, they're not asking you where you came, what school you went to.
Right.
In my personal experience, they don't ask me, what school did you go to? Or what can you do? No, they just want to see your skills. It's what you bring to the table.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I do believe Queens College prepare you for that, honestly. There's a couple projects that I've done, and employers, they're at awe of it. And I was like, I don't think it's all that. No, it's because they don't know how to do it. And I think that's the difference. When someone don't know how to do something and you present to them something you did, it's a big deal. Because they don't know how to do it, but you can. And they need that from you. And that's what I've learned. I mean, I'm only 29, so I'm learning more. But I just know that from my experience, people need your skills. That's it. They just need your skills, not what the school you came from, but your skills.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, you know, that also has been my experience. I mean, working at my last staff job was at Columbia as a communications manager in the physical therapy program in the medical school. And, you know, I had to, at the beginning, when I started, I had to really convince them that they needed a really good website. They needed a social media presence. Why is this important? And so I convinced them that this needed to happen. But I think another part of it is I always thought, even when I had staff jobs, I always thought of myself as a freelancer, because that's what I was, you know, most of my career. And I always thought that as a freelancer, you're coming in to do a job, and, you know, educating the client is part of it.
Yeah.
You know, right? I mean, telling them why this is important, and here's the kind of content that you should be putting out there, et cetera, et cetera. So a part of it is educating the client. And as you say, they didn't say, what school did you go to? They just said, oh, you can do this for us? Great, you know?
It's a great point. I'm glad you brought this up, because in my personal Instagram, I do a lot of, like, you know, tutorials on how to do things, how to do this, how to do that. And one thing I know is that they're so intrigued to learn. People are thankful that you're able to tell them, no, this is how you do it. This is how you do it. They feel as though you're not selfish. You're not just keeping it all to yourself. But at the same time, they would rather someone do it for them.
Yes.
So in that sense, even if you're telling them, you teach them, which is something amazing. Those that can take it, they will take it, learn, and then apply it. However, in their own business, they would rather someone do it for them, because you can do them cleaner or better. But I'm so glad you brought this up. It's true. You have to teach them. Yeah. Educating your client is a big deal. And that's one thing at my own company that I do value, is to teach the client, like, you know, this is how it's done and all that. I agree 100%.
So for the next question, what I'd like to do is I'd like you to speak to someone, a student at Queens College, maybe a freshman or a sophomore, who's just starting off. So Vanessa, you've had quite a career in audiovisual production. And we have lots of students who are interested in audiovisual production and content development and creative franchise development. For students who share your interest and would like to follow your trajectory, what do you recommend they do while they're in college to, you know, best prepare them to move forward in that area, that space?
Wow. That's a really good question, because that really was I didn't know when I was in college actually what I wanted to do. I was just following a path of something that I was interested in and something that I loved, which is learning languages and learning about, different literatures from all over the world and this sort of thing. And writing, I kind of thought maybe I'll be a writer. So I would just say, follow your heart. Study what appeals to you. Try to find something that you love. And you can take that if, okay, you want to work in the media, live, recorded, whatever, you can take that with you, because content development is so key these days. That's really where it's at. The production skills, you can learn that, but I think it's really important to have an expertise in something.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to use as an example, okay, the news anchor, Savannah Guthrie, she went to law school, she had a law degree, but she never practiced. She decided she didn't like it. And she had some skills in journalism, so she pursued that. So that's kind of an extreme example, but I think the content, the need for content is so great that I would pursue it from that end.
And then Thamare, also, we have lots of art students and a lot of students in art who would like to make the leap to entrepreneur. And if, I think for a lot of people, it sounds like a far-fetched dream. How could I make a living, in the visual arts? What would you recommend to a young art student who just wants to create for a living, but doesn't know how to make that happen in the visual and creative arts?
One thing I did fail is to show people. The reason why I didn't start sooner is because people didn't know what I knew. They didn't know my skills, and they didn't know that I knew how to do this or do that. And so after I gone to Queens, I just started applying to just regular jobs, And so when I got in the graphics world, I know this, even when I was in that job, they still utilized my videography skill and photography skills. And they still wanted, like, Instagram was a thing. Although I was doing a lot of graphics work, but I still had to implement all those other skills that I knew. And they needed a separate department for it at some point, and because it's highly needed, because it's an everyday thing. And so, the graphics, just creating content, I think, as Vanessa said, it's a big deal. And the reason why it's a big deal, because it's needed every day. People are always on their phone, and because this phone is so close to your face, it becomes personal, right? Yeah. So it invades your personal space. And so you have the power to change someone's mind. You have the power to persuade someone. You have the power to do a lot of things. And this is via one post. I don't know if you know how TikTok has blown, right? Like it's blown. And exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the things is that a lot of people were able to relate to each other, period.
Right.
That was the main thing. And you can change someone's mind with one video. You can make someone laugh, sad, cry, and you can take people's money. I don't know if you realize there's been a lot of scam as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so if you can get to the point where you can reach people's pocket, like, with a lie, but if you could truly get to someone by conveying a message, period. And that's all there is to it.
I mean, look at all the social media influencers there are out there.
Exactly. And so we think that this is a great time for us as visuals, just visuals. Like it's a great time. It's a great time to shine, because I think Vanessa made a great point when you need to know your focus point. Mm-hmm. Although I'm a visual designer in my church, I do not know anything about the production side. I had to learn about that part. Mm-hmm. The audio, because we go live. So the audio part, the visual part, like, also I can handle fixing the camera, but to make it go live, it's a completely different field.
Yeah.
That's something completely different. And so
Yeah.
everyone has a job when it comes to visual production, period. There are many connections. It's not just what you're seeing, it's everything that's happening in the background. And in the background is where it's needed. Okay, this is where people are needed. And we may think that a lot of people, oh, I think coming out of Queens College, I had the concept that, wow, people do need help, right? So I'm thinking of big companies. However, I didn't think about the smaller companies that do need help as well. And so this is where the greater help lies, I think. One thing I've learned is the more people that follows you, right? And so you get a broader audience, but that it's not really true. It's those who know of your skills. I think that's where it lies, because people didn't follow, like I get contacted by people that referred me to other people. So it wasn't really, your big followers, or it's really about the connection and what you provide as an individual, the kind of services you provide and what you left them with. If you left them at awe, they're gonna come back, first of all.
Yep.
And if they feel as though you did a great job and you helped them out in exactly what they needed, they're gonna refer you to other people. It's always word of mouth.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Networking is I think is really important, right? I mean, that's something you always have to do at every stage of your career. You have to keep that going. It's very important.
I'm hearing in your advice, you're telling young people, just get creating, like learn, get out there, start making stuff, start doing it, and you'll get better. And once you get good, the better you get, the better jobs you'll get. But a lot of people come to us and they're like, Professor, I want to create, but I just don't know what to do. I don't know how to get started. What do you advise for a young person like that who, has a creative passion, but doesn't even know what the first step would be?
Well, I think it's going to depend on what they want to do. I mean, are they a visual artist? Are they, do they want to do broadcast kind of stuff? Do they want to do behind the scenes production? There's a whole, I think a lot of it depends what it is. But if you have an area and you say, oh, I want to explore this, volunteer, find people who are doing this and volunteer. I mean, it's a great way to learn, to find out if you like the stuff. For example, I'm going to say community television. Let's say if you're interested in that and broadcast television, like I live in Manhattan, so in Manhattan, it's Manhattan Neighborhood Network. This is public access TV. You can go, you take their training, you will learn, the broadcast level technical stuff that you need to know to actually put on a show. And, guess what, guys? It's free. I mean, hello, if you go to NYU or Columbia, you have to pay gazillions of dollars for this. You can get this at your local public access station. Go look at the opportunities there. Just volunteer, take whatever training you're required to do, and it's going to be either free or very cheap. And then you'll be you need to have a little show or like a little project. And then as part of the way these things work, you also volunteer on other people's productions. And so you learn the different jobs, the different kinds of work that's involved. That's a great way to see if this is for you and if you like it.
Thamare?
Yeah, the way I got started is, I think I mentioned it before, Professor Weinstein's class. I took the Instagram class, and then I started my own Instagram, right? And it's just, you have to go for it, you have to see what it's like. You have to know the field and understand the work that it takes to get there. Because you don't just develop a love, like you just don't know what you want until you actually get to it. Even when I was going into medical field, I know I wanted to be a cardiologist. And so what I did is I applied to this internship, and I made sure that I got into the cardiology department because I needed to see what it was like,
Right.
I wanted to see those doctors' faces because that probably would have been me, right? And and even if I worked there for a whole year, and I can tell you it's not as satisfying as what I'm doing now. I don't know. There's this pure satisfaction to know that you can work on something for hours and not be tired of it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's love. That has to be love, you know? And so it's hard for you to tell someone, oh, go after your love. Go after it. Just do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the drive to do it, then there's no pushing. Like there's no need for me to push you if you have no drive for it. And it's hard for you to know what you want to do unless you see it and you have an interest. Interest has to build, and then you get into it. And one thing I do always tell people, look at what other people do. Like if you like the traveling, start by going, I don't know, go to Boston one time. And if you like it, and then you go to bigger places, take the bigger step and then the bigger step, but you do have to start by introducing yourself, putting yourself in that position where you're really experiencing and understanding how it works. Because if you don't know, then you just don't know. You can only imagine. Because it takes work. It's all about work. And to get like influenced, you have to be in the position to be influenced. Yeah.
I have a question in the chat box. This one's from Oscar. Are there any experiences unrelated to your profession that have helped you in your careers? Skills and abilities can come from strange places. I think, Vanessa, you were talking about like studying Spanish or and Thamare, what do you have anything? Maybe we'll kick it off. Thamare, any weird skills that came out of nowhere and you're like, wow, I'm glad I knew that. That really helped.
Oh, okay, so knowing, I know Creole, but I don't know how to read or write it. I hope that makes sense. And so one time we were filming for college. It was just short film based on, just aid. And so they didn't know certain languages, like didn't know certain words in Creole, and I was able to help them. That I feel like that's so weak. It's not as strong as Vanessa's, but and I think that one was key, right? Because they misspelled a lot of words, and so I was able to help them just a little. It wasn't a big help, but it was a help. I think that. But I think the bigger thing for me was in the medical field because I'm working as their graphics designer. And I think that one is, because some of these things are familiar. And so I could tell them, oh no, I don't think that's what I know, or this is not how I perceive it. And so I'm able to help them out in a way where I can properly communicate certain content to the younger folks and sometimes the older folks. Yeah.
Vanessa, do you have any other oddball sort of experience?
Oh, well, okay. As a freelancer, okay, you go from gig to gig, and sometimes you have a little break between gigs. And so I used to take these like temp jobs, to be an administrative assistant, because I had pretty good, keyboard skills. I'm pretty computer savvy and all that kind of stuff. And so, I learned stuff like how to fix the copy machine, when the repair person like was not able to get there and they had to make like 8 gazillion copies for some meeting or other. So I'd be in there messing around with the copying machine. And you know what? When you're, I hate to tell you, when you're on a real set, and you've got that entry-level job, that's going to be your job to go and make those copies. And if you can fix the copy machine, they're going to love you. They're going to love you, and they will hire you for their next production. So I think, and that is a great question. And my real answer to that is nothing that you do in your work life is a waste, because there's always something that you get from that. Even if at the time you think, oh, I'm never going to use this, well, you might.
Yep.
So,
and one thing came to mind is I took a web course at Queens College, web design.
Yeah.
And so when I got my job, there was this banner that they put up and they had a coder do it for them and didn't know how to take it off. And the thing is, I've taken web design 1 and 2. So I dabble a little, but I didn't know a lot. And so I took it down. I could tell you that after going through the whole coding, I'm looking through it. And I had to, I had to give
right.
it back.
You know, it's also, you make a great point, because sometimes past experiences, even if they're unrelated, they can turn you into a unique package in your field. So for example, I used to be a radio announcer. It was something I did in my young adulthood before I joined the academy, and it helped me become a researcher on social media and podcasting, just because there were facets of, you know, both businesses that I understood. I have a great, hold on. Oscar says, thank you for your answers. They were great. Diversity and past experiences can help in ways not a lot of people realize initially. A public speaker can get the charisma from restaurant jobs, for example. I think that's totally true, Oscar.
Absolutely.
Laura has an excellent point, and it's one we're close to the end. Unfortunately, time flew by. But Jason, before Laura's comment, do you have something to ask?
Yeah, I have a question. And I want to, well, anyway, you both have really active LinkedIn pages. And so I posted the links to your LinkedIn pages in the chat and also in the comments for for the YouTube live. But when the YouTube live is recorded, we'll put it in the description as well. I also included Thamare's Instagram and Vanessa's website for her podcast. But I'm just mentioning all that as background. My real question is, and on your LinkedIn, Thamare, you have this really great portfolio, for example, and you both just seem really active. And I'm wondering if you have advice for students about how to make LinkedIn work for them.
There's you get 1 month free for LinkedIn Premier Plus, which is great. And so I think you should take advantage of that. So what that does is that it helps you it pushes your profile out to a lot of numbers of employers. So what it does with keywords that you put out, like for me, I put graphic design in. So what they do is they push my profile out to certain people who are looking for graphic designers. So if they put in graphic designer in their search bar, your name will pop up. And when they click on your LinkedIn profile, they have to see some sort of visuals to see what you have. And so you want to put your work out there. It's not like it's not social media, but it's still a way for people to see you professionally, to see your abilities. And so take advantage of the Premier Plus. I think it's called Premier Plus. It's 1 month for free. After that, I think it's pretty pricey. I think it's $69 a month.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah. And so if you take advantage of the first month, then I think it'll work out. I do believe that if you push your professional side out there, and so everything else will come, and you just have to post constantly, you know. Right. It's okay to post everything that you have done as a professional, all the content you've created. And if you want to talk about it, all the type of tools you've used to make those content is important as well. So employers understand your skill set, what you use, and how you apply them. Yeah.
Right. And I would say definitely keep your profile up to date. I think that's really important. Make sure that if you are looking for work, you know, there's a thing you can click in your profile that says, I'm available for hire. Make sure you do that. And also like participate, you know, in conversations, you know, follow people, comment on what they have to say. So you'll be out there. You know, and you'll be keeping your contacts going, and use hashtags. I think that's also something people should do. You know, use good hashtags for what you want to put out there.
Now, Laura has a nice comment that leads to a question. Laura writes, networking is key. We're building the Alumni Network through the Alumni Sharing Knowledge Program, and alumni can open doors to internships in their companies or refer you to job openings. Find an alumni mentor through QC Center for Career Engagement. And I wanted to say, you know, a lot of students are like, oh, I don't want to bother the alumni, or they're too important. They don't want to see me. I don't want to pester them. And I try to explain to them, no, like young people, like people want to help young people, especially those who are in their field and aspire to it. Can you just reassure our students that like the alumni do sympathize with young people and they do want to help, so don't be shy? Can you please set them straight for me?
Well, we were in your position at one time ourselves, so we know what that's like. And you know, having in my own journey, having come from a place of, gee, I have no idea what I want to do, and then just finding that place for me, I can definitely relate to all of those uncertainties and stuff. But you know, got to get out there. Yeah,
I agree. And even just to add on to what Vanessa says, as well as your professors, Professor Bolivia, she helped me out with my resume and my portfolio as well. Like, you know, and there's some great people out in Queens College. The alumni are just a plus because we're actually out there. Yeah. So if you could use the ones next to you and reach out to the ones that are working on the field that you're interested in, is always a plus, because you're always learning, period. I think like you're always learning, and definitely we need the help. We need each other.
Yeah,
and
that's great.
Not bothered at all.
Yeah. No, it's not bother at all. We're happy to do it, happy to give back. I mean, I have to say, I had a great education at Queens College, and I'm very happy to give back. I mean, how I found Laura, or Laura found me, was that I interviewed Zavi Gunn for the podcast. Oh. So, you know, one thing leads to another, and here I am.
That's great.
I always tell them, I say, listen, all of us got the help of someone along the way. And it's just, I mean, that's just part of life. Older people helping younger people. It's just a big chain. So jump in, because you're cheating yourself if you don't try to find older people who will give you a hand, because they're certainly out there and they're certainly valuable. All right. Well, we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us here just before, and thank you very much to Laura for helping set this up and for this amazing program coming out of development. A million thank yous, Laura. This is a great asset. Before we go, I just wanted to say, hold on. Sorry about that. Vanessa Corwin is the executive producer of the Now Let's Talk podcast.
Now Let's Talk the podcast.
Now Let's Talk the podcast.
Correct.
You can catch her on Spotify, iTunes, Apple, Google, wherever you get your podcasts.
Everywhere.
And Thamare Rejouis is a graphic designer and entrepreneur, and both are Queens College alumni who have made it. They were in the same shoes you were at some point. So don't think that you can't go from where you are to a media professional. People have done it before you, and they will do it after you. And so be one of them if that's what you want to go for.
Right.
All right. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody on the live stream. So stand by for a moment, please.